Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. How anyone could take that network seriously is literally beyond me. What I mean, what you just heard there is but a sampling of the vile racism that's literally commonplace at MSNBC today. Again, how anyone can treat what is so obviously rank leftist propaganda is anything other than the Marxist garbage that it is. I mean, MSNBC reporting facts is akin to Philip Morris, Marlboro Cigarettes reporting scientific health data, but in many respects Trump is the least of their problems, and they know it if you read between the lines of the silly anecdotes that substitute for analysis. The legacy media is absolutely panic. They're realizing that what's really happening with Elon Musk and Twitter goes way beyond Trump. And it's changing the world like never before. What really has the legacy media panicked is the rise of the new telecommunicative world known as the networked society. Our world is going through a massive transition right now. We're rapidly moving away from what scholars called mass society, which is where social life was in the 19th and 20th century, organized around the big cities and metropolitan urban areas. That's the world that big media was born in: the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post, the Chicago Tribune, and all the major television centers from NBC, ABC, CBS. They were all broadcasting from the major cosmopolitan centers in our nation and indeed in the world. And as such, not only was the news coverage tainted by the liberal values of cosmopolitan globalism, but the major news outlets together held a collective monopoly over the kind of information that we had access to. That age is gone. And we're fast moving into what scholars call a networked society, where virtually all major news events are first reported via video shot by an eyewitness's smartphone. I mean, gone to the satellite trucks. Gone are the reporters first on the scene. Now everyone with a smartphone as a cameraman. Now everyone with a social media platform as a pundit. And in such a world, information is radically decentralized from the legacy news media outlets and dispersed among the masses. It's technically known as the democratization of knowledge and information. And the legacy media is slowly but surely recognizing that their world, the world of mass society and monopolize information, is gone. The real world is bypassing them. And this is what Musk is ultimately doing here. He's restoring knowledge and information to the people and bypassing the legacy media gatekeepers who no longer have a monopoly on what constitutes as legitimate information. And as you can see, they only have themselves to blame for it all. They went all in on left-wing advocacy, journalism, and cancelled culture. They've gone full propaganda mode, which has only served to hasten the advent of the democratization of knowledge. People no more trust CNN with news and information than they do Philip Morris with their health. The days of the legacy media are over. A new information age has begun. And some significant news: we've been following the restructuring going on at CNN under its new ownership group. And honestly, what I've been hoping for is for CNN to be reformed, for them to no longer be a tool of the left but rather turn into an actual fair news network, possibly shift to the right but hopefully stay in the center, and for the left boids to keep screeching and melting down. It just would have been a great feeling of justice in general to see it happen. That would have been, I think, best case scenario. I don't know if we're ever going to get there, because CNN has a pretty bad problem, and that problem is they're going broke. I'm not exactly shedding tears or losing hope over this, because to be honest, this is best case scenario number 2. Either CNN reforms itself and turns into something credible, or CNN crashes, crumbles, and just kind of disappears. Well, it seems as though that is probably the more likely outcome, as the network is on the verge of collapse. CNN Plus, of course, we know is a massive failure, and following CNN Plus, the ratings have been in the gutter. Well, now apparently it's all catching up to them as CNN braces for mass layoffs. It's not just the leftist hacks at the top primetime shows that are losing their jobs. Seems as though the whole network is suffering severe financial strain. Like I always say, I don't exactly enjoy gloating or relishing in the demise of others, and especially not the financial ruin of others. But if we're talking about the demise of CNN, well then bring on the relish, baby. We will not be shedding no tears over here. Of course, to the contrary. Alright folks, take a look at this headline right over here from the New York Post. CNN head Chris Litch admits layoffs on horizon as anxious staffers grill him during town hall. Quote, huge nerves. CNN new boss Chris Litch was grilled by anxious staffers at a town hall meeting over possible layoffs as the cable news giant is under pressure from corporate parent Warner Brothers Discovery to slash costs amid Litch, who succeeded Jeff Zucker, as the network's most senior executive earlier this year declined to get into specifics, when asked by the town hall moderator Alison Camerata, which employees were in danger of losing their job. But the executive did say that those involved with aspects of CNN who are not part of the network's quote, core mission, were most likely to get the X, and so you know exactly what that means. Those who aren't aligned with the core mission of reforming CNN moving forward. In other words, all the lefty hacks masquerading as journalists, all the fake news experts are on the chopping block. Look, the midterms was not perfect. But like I keep saying, 2022 is the year that keeps on giving, boy is the pendulum swinging. I mean, just think about that, you can't be too greedy. You got to be happy with what you got. You know, in life, you can't have everything but a total overhaul and nearly 75% possibly of the Twitter staff getting the boot. All the leftist hacks being sent packing is a beautiful gift. And now we're possibly seeing the exact same thing. It's CNN, all of these corrupt media and social media actors who want to put their thumb on the scale and flex their cultural power to benefit them and their political needs, wants, and political party. Well, it's finally catching up to them. And it's a beautiful thing watching the corporate legacy media collapse. These networks are meeting their moment of reckoning. They've shattered their reputations so deeply, so badly, that they're unable to regain the followers that they've lost, whether it's people who used to trust them and watch them who just got exposed to all the lies and all the garbage who walked away forever, or whether it's the left boys who are now very angry and discouraged that CNN and other networks are moving towards a more fair and balanced viewpoint. Of course, he can't have that causing them to leave in droves, which now, by the way, we're even seeing at MSNBC. Morale at MSNBC is at a quote all-time low as network faces identity crisis. It seems as though after this little fake news experiment that we've seen over the last 6 years, but of course, it's really last decades, but it's gotten really bad over the last 6 years. It's finally catching up to the legacy media, and people have had enough, not to mention the change in demographics. People who are my age don't watch MSNBC and CNN. They don't sit at the TV and watch cable news. They're on YouTube, Twitter, and various other platforms, and they're putting their trust into people who are more relatable, people who are normal like them, doing the research and just calling it as they see it. The independent media is winning, and these networks are crashing, tumbling, as people realize that really they're not in the business of news. They're in the business of scandal, entertainment, tabloid, and of course, the most dangerous corporate and political shilling. That's what they do in times of potential conflict and global unease. When the concept of peace becomes an uncertainty. What do? They show for the military-industrial complex and the globalists who benefit from times of uncertainty. They want to get us into war. When it comes to election season, they shill the political party that they're in the pocket for. People are finally realizing that these networks have some sort of ulterior motive. And it's just like in a relationship. Once you lose trust, it's very hard to get it back. If you cheat on your spouse, if you do something really egregious in your relationship, you're not just going to be able to fix that. You have irreversibly changed the dynamic moving forward, and no longer will you be trusted. You've lost that trust, you've broken that relationship, and that's exactly where we are right now with the legacy media. You can fire all the Brian Stelter as Jim Acostas, Don Lemons, Jake Tappers, Chris Cuomo as you want, all the Tiffany Crosses you want. At the end of the day, CNN is still CNN. MSNBC is still MSNBC unless you're part of the crowd has gullible enough to fall for the New World Order agenda. Unless you're a part of the blue and non-crowd who's made being an anti-Trump Democrat being part of the resistance, their new persona and their new personality, because they're basically an empty shell, an empty void, and they got to fill it with something, otherwise they're just a very uninteresting person. Unless you're that individual. Well, then you're probably not watching CNN or MSNBC, and now they're stuck between a rock and a hard place because Donald Trump is back on Twitter. And clearly you know that Donald Trump essentially made CNN what they've become over the last little while. CNN is nothing without Donald Trump. This Trump, that every single day orange man bed every single day, and now with him coming back, but then their commitment to be fair and balanced. Well, what do? I guess we'll have to find out. It's either they're gonna go a full leftist anti-Trump fake news once again for the next election season, or they're going to be fair, and it's probably not going to succeed, or the network is going to collapse totally on itself. Those seem to be the three options, and the latter might be where we're headed. Mass layoffs are about to hit the network, and the woke fake news journalists seem to be first on the chopping block. At least that's my interpretation of what Chris Litch, the new boss at CNN, Jeff Zucker's replacement, is saying. Can we please have a moment of silence as we pay our respects and type F in the comment section for the end of the legacy media as we know it? Although probably not. Legacy media seems like a villain from some superhero movie that just always ends up coming back no matter how many times you knock them down. No matter how many times you think you've obliterated the threat, they just keep re-emerging like a damn zombie. Thanks for being here, folks. Big hug. Ciao. Goodbye. God bless.